Pirates have long been synonymous with dangerous, lawless men who plunder the seas in search of fortune and fame. But lost amid the stories of notorious male pirates are the tales of fierce women who defied expectations and carved their own names into pirate history. These women weren't just passengers on pirate ships. They were captains, leaders, and warriors in their own right, commanding the high seas with daring tactics, unmatched bravery, and an unyielding thirst for freedom. The rise of female pirates. In an era when women were often relegated to domestic roles, the idea of a woman taking up piracy was almost unthinkable. Yet some women chose to live a life of adventure on the high seas, often in disguise, seeking to escape the confines of society or to avenge past injustices. The golden age of piracy from the late 17th to early 18th centuries provided the perfect storm for women like Anne Bonny and Mary Read to rise to fame defying gender norms and challenging the very notion of what it meant to be a pirate. Unlike many men of the time, these women were not born into wealth or nobility. Instead, they found themselves drawn to the sea out of desperation, ambition, or sheer survival. And once they stepped onto a pirate ship, they didn't just blend in, they made their mark. Anne Bonny and Mary Read, the pirate duo. Anne Bonny and Mary Read's story is one of the most iconic in pirate history. These two women are often remembered together, not only because of their exploits, but also because they shared a bond of defiance and courage. Anne Bonny was born to a wealthy family in Ireland, but ran away from home after an affair with a pirate named Calico Jack Rackham. Disguised as a man, she joined his crew, quickly rising to prominence due to her ferocity in battle and her leadership skills. Anne wasn't the typical pirate. She was fierce, independent, and unafraid to prove herself among a crew of mostly men. Her name became synonymous with rebellion and the boldness of women in piracy. Mary Read, on the other hand, had a much more complex history. She, too, disguised herself as a man to join the crew, and like Anne, she fought valiantly alongside other pirates. Mary had been raised as a boy for much of her early life, in an effort by her mother to secure an inheritance. As a pirate, she embraced her new identity, taking part in raids and becoming a trusted member of Rackham's crew. Together, Anne and Mary became a force to be reckoned with, feared by merchant ships and rival pirate crews alike. Their most famous adventure was their involvement in the capture of a merchant ship off the coast of the Caribbean. When the ship's crew attempted to resist, Anne and Mary joined the battle, displaying remarkable skill in sword fighting and combat. The sight of two women fighting alongside male pirates was enough to send shockwaves through the pirate community, proving that the high seas were no longer a man's domain. The gender shift in piracy was largely dominated by men, but women who ventured onto pirate ships were often able to succeed through sheer force of will. However, many female pirates, like Anne Bonny and Mary Read, had to disguise themselves as men to gain entry to pirate crews. This was common, as it was exceedingly rare for a woman to be accepted aboard a pirate ship in her own right. The life of a pirate was grueling and often violent, requiring an individual to be physically strong and mentally tough, traits that women were not always expected to have in the eyes of society. However, the need for crew members often outweighed the societal expectations of the time. Pirate ships were notorious for accepting anyone who could hold a sword and contribute to the fight, regardless of their gender. This flexibility in pirate culture made it possible for women to defy conventional roles, and many did so in grand style. Once on board, women like Anne and Mary proved that they were more than capable of holding their own. The stories of these women stood in stark contrast to the stereotypical images of the times, showing that a pirate's power wasn't just limited to men. Anne Bonny's aggressive nature in battle and Mary Read's tactical intelligence turned the tide in many pirate skirmishes, and their presence aboard pirate ships demonstrated that women could be just as feared, if not more, than their male counterparts. The struggles of female pirates. Despite their success, life as a female pirate was fraught with challenges. Women had to continually prove themselves in an environment that was far from accepting of their gender. They faced not only the dangers of the sea, stormy waters, deadly battles, and disease, but also the prejudice of their male counterparts. Many pirates considered women aboard their ships to be a bad omen or bad luck, leading to a great deal of animosity and even isolation for female pirates. Moreover, female pirates had to live with the constant threat of being caught. Pirate crews were often targeted by the Navy, and if a female pirate was captured, she faced the same harsh punishments as her male counterparts. Women who were caught often had their identity exposed, leading to shame and disgrace, but many women chose the life of piracy precisely because they were unwilling to live by the rules set by society. In the case of Bonny and Mary Read, both women were eventually captured during a battle with the British Navy. While Bonny's ultimate fate is uncertain, some say she escaped from prison and disappeared, Mary Read died in captivity from a fever shortly thereafter. The end of their story was tragic, but their legacy lived on as symbols of the power and resilience of women in a world dominated by men. While Bonny and Mary Read's story is well known, they were far from the only women who dominated the pirate world. Throughout history, several female pirates rose to power, ruling vast areas of the seas with iron fists and unmatched intelligence. These women were not just passive participants in piracy, they were ruthless captains, fearless warriors, and strategic masterminds who defied societal norms and led pirate fleets into battle. Ching Shih, the Pirate Empress. One of the most legendary and powerful female pirates in history was Ching Shih. Born in 1775 in China, she became a feared pirate captain who commanded a fleet of nearly 400 ships. Ching Shih's rise to power is a story of both cunning and strength, as she went from being a prostitute to becoming one of the most influential pirates in history. Her journey began when she married Ching Shih, a pirate captain who was one of the most powerful men in China at the time. After Ching Shih's death, Ching Shih took command of his fleet, leading it with a fierce and strategic mind. She established a strict pirate code that governed everything from the treatment of captives to the distribution of plunder. This code, along with her leadership, helped her gain the loyalty of over 20,000 men. Ching Shih's tactics were innovative, and she used them to devastating effect. She would often attack large merchant ships in coordinated raids, and she was known for her ability to outmaneuver the naval forces that attempted to stop her. Her fearsome reputation reached all corners of the globe, and even the mighty Chinese Navy struggled to defeat her. Incredibly, Ching Shih retired peacefully. She negotiated a pardon from the Chinese government, and she went on to live out her final years in comfort. Her ability to wield power and her dominance on the seas make her one of the most successful and dangerous female pirates to ever live. Grace O'Malley, the Pirate Queen of Ireland. Another remarkable female pirate who earned the title of Pirate Queen was Grace O'Malley, an Irish noblewoman who lived during the 16th century. Known for her daring and defiance of the English crown, O'Malley is remembered as a woman who fought fiercely for her freedom and her people. O'Malley was the daughter of a chieftain and grew up on the seas, learning how to navigate and fight from a young age. When her father died, she inherited his fleet of ships and became the leader of a group of pirates who plundered the English-controlled Irish coast. Her fleet grew to include several ships, and she became infamous for her raids on English ships and ports. One of the most remarkable aspects of O'Malley's story was her interaction with Queen Elizabeth I. In 1593, she sailed to London to demand the release of her son, who had been captured by the English. In an unprecedented meeting, O'Malley met with the English queen, and the two women engaged in a fierce negotiation. While O'Malley did not succeed in her demands, her meeting with Queen Elizabeth solidified her reputation as a formidable force. O'Malley continued to raid English ships and defend her Irish homeland until her death in 1603. She remains a symbol of resistance and defiance, and her legacy as the Pirate Queen of Ireland is still celebrated in Irish folklore today. Mary Read and Anne Bonny. The final chapter. Returning to Anne Bonny and Mary Read, their story has one of the most tragic endings in pirate history. After their capture by the British Navy, both women were imprisoned, awaiting execution. However, they managed to avoid the gallows in an unusual twist of fate. Mary Read, who had lived much of her life as a man to avoid detection, died of a fever while in prison. Her death was mourned by many, including Anne Bonny, who had lost not only a fellow pirate, but also a dear friend and ally. Anne Bonny's fate is more ambiguous. Some believe that she escaped from prison and went on to live a quiet life in the Caribbean, while others claim that she died shortly after her release, having been spared from execution due to her pregnancy. The tragic end of Anne Bonny and Mary Read contrasts sharply with the power and influence they wielded during their pirate careers. They were among the first women to carve a path into the world of piracy, and their legacy continues to inspire generations of women. Female pirates in modern lore. The stories of these remarkable women continue to captivate audiences, proving that piracy wasn't just a man's world. From Anne Bonny's daring escapades to Ching Shih's global empire, these women not only fought for their freedom, they also shaped pirate lore and their place in history. Their ability to rise above the gendered limitations of their time and take control of their destinies has made them icons in the story of piracy. As the age of piracy began to wane, the women who ruled the seas with their cunning, courage, and fierce independence left a legacy that would be remembered for centuries to come. Today, their stories are told and retold, reminding us that pirates come in all shapes, sizes, and genders. The high seas were not just dominated by men, they were also ruled by women whose names are etched into the history of piracy forever.